Hey Ottawa, this is your Monday market snapshot for the Ottawa real estate market for Monday, March 4th, 2024. My name is Annalee Rice. I'm a realtor here in Ottawa, and every week I bring you the details of what's going on in the Ottawa real estate market. I had good intentions to do a bit of a comparison of stats and like what you see for stats from me, but also from the Ottawa Real Estate Board, and then also what many of the other realtors share. But I was really hoping that we would have the February data by today. And unfortunately, even though I delayed recording this until midday, we don't yet have the Ottawa Real Estate Board stats. So I'm going to take those slides and I will create a separate video later on in this week when I have the data from those different sources so that I can compare them a little bit more accurately. So, but I do have the end of the February stats from the data that I pull. So stay tuned past the local area stuff so you can see all the month over month and year over year stuff. Okay, let's go. Okay, so first off, citywide, we see that the active listings this last week did climb. It basically rebounded to the number of active listings had dropped by about 50 last week, and now we jumped back up by 51. You'll see that it was mostly in the detached and some condos, and there was actually a drop in the number of townhomes listed across the city. If we look at the sales, they also jumped by about 50, which means that you'll see later that the number of new listings was much higher than a 50 jump. And it was in the detached and towns that we saw the increase in the number of sales this week. Okay, so this is the inventory breakdown. We can see the green line, which is the active inventory, is steadily and consistently for the last 4 weeks there has been climbing up, and we have broken that 1,500 barrier, which was a bit of a stagnation point last spring where we had fairly low inventory. We were sitting at or around that 1,500 until into June, at the beginning of June, when the interest rate hikes had happened, and that really slowed down the sales, and then the inventory started to climb. So right now, the amount of inventory is looking pretty good. The sales are climbing quicker than what we saw last spring, and the conditional sales is higher again over the firm sales this week. So I would suspect that next week's firm sales will again climb. Okay, so this chart is the new listing breakdown. There were 397 properties listed this week, which is actually a pretty huge jump from last week. 74 of those properties, or 19%, were properties that were relisted. That's the gray line at the bottom. And 323 properties, or 81% of them, were new to the market this week. So you can see that's the blue line, and again, it jumped quite significantly. I do want to highlight there that's the first week in March, and unfortunately my chart doesn't go back to show you like from January from 2023, but if you look at where it was in March, we are well above that. We're probably around 80 or 90 listings higher than what we were last time, and the sales are actually higher as well. So the question is whether or not what we'll see. So our inventory is climbing, which we saw on the last chart. The sales I expect will climb. However, we do have in the next 3 weeks or so, we've got a couple things that are going to, have blips and slow down. So in the next couple weeks, we're going to have March breaks, which typically is a time where families don't want to be listing their home if they're home on kids for school breaks and stuff. Or they're traveling. So we will see a little bit of a dip probably in the number of homes listed during the March break, which is next week for most of the boards, I think. And then also Easter this year is the weekend that shifts from March to April. So that's early this year compared to some other years. So we will see a bit of a drop through that week too. So all of our kind of breaks of times that kind of cause these blips are early in the year, which I think, although we'll see increases of new listings and properties coming on the market through March, I think that the big boom of properties will probably come on like that first week in April after Easter. Okay, so sales this week. We had 17% of the properties that sold this week sold with no conditions. That's up slightly from the freeze of 15% that we saw the last 3 weeks. The average sits at 15.5 for the last 4 weeks. 30.5% of the properties that sold, of the sales this week, were at or above the asking price. So that's hovering still, we're almost at a third of the properties selling at or above. But if we look at just the ones that had sold within the first week on the market, it was more like 2/3. So 62% of those properties were selling at or above asking, which makes sense. They were highly desirable. They sold within a week, so they sell at a higher price, closer to the asking price. We had 18% of the sales that happened this week were ones that were on the market for 7 days or less. 62% again of those sold with no conditions, so 62% selling with no conditions, 62% selling at or above asking. And then we had 64% of the homes selling within 30 days. So that number continues to climb because we're having a lot more inventory coming on. There's not that many properties still on from before the holidays, like longer than 30 days, more, all that. So that number will continue to climb and then find its sort of steady point. Okay, so if we zoom into the different areas of the city, we'll see what's going on specifically in those areas. Yes. First, the central urban region, we see that the active inventory climbed across property types, but most notably in the condos. Sales were pretty flat for detached and towns and up slightly for condos. In Canada and Stittsville, we see a active inventory for detached climbed, but we actually saw a drop in the townhomes and condos. But you see the number of townhomes that sold was up by 6. So I think perhaps it was just a higher number of sales offset the number of new listings there. The number of detached sales was pretty steady and condos was flat. In Riverside South and Barrhaven, we have a drop in the number of detached and towns, and the inventory there is really low for detached and towns, and obviously still dropping. But if you look at the number of sales are happening. So 16 sales for detached and 14 for towns. That's a lot considering how few are on the market. And the number of condos dropped slightly, very flat for the condos. And in Orleans, we have a lot more inventory you see there and climbing. So 107 with an increase of inventory there, slight drop for towns and condos. The number of towns on the market is very low, I would say, for Orleans. And then the sales, so the detached sales was 21 sales. So that's quite a good number of sales for Orleans. And with that, inventory still climbing. It shows you how many properties actually came on the market in Orleans this last week, sorry. And towns and condos pretty flat for sales. Okay, so as always, I've got the chart form here for the different areas of different property types, and you can compare the different areas of the city. It's kind of interesting on this detached one. You can see that the number of conditionally sold is actually lower than the sold this week. But in certain areas, such as Barrhaven, you see that the number of conditionally sold is actually higher than the sold for this week. So you can see the differences regionally. And here we have the data for the townhomes. And I think the thing I would point out here is that although there's a fair number of active properties in different areas of the city, you can see that the days on market, the cumulative days on market for the sold, that's the last column there. You can see in certain areas like Central Urban and Orleans and even Canada Stittsville that the days to sell there is coming down quite significantly. So a good number of those properties that are listed and active are probably just sitting there because perhaps they're overpriced or there's something about them that's making them not sell. But the ones that are selling are coming on the market and selling quickly. So it's interesting. And here we have the data for the condos across the city. Okay, so while I don't have the data from the board or my brokerage yet, this is my data for the City of Ottawa boundaries, and I've got the month stats and all the different charts. So here we've got the month-to-month average sale price, so comparing January to February. And so in all cases, except the townhomes, the freehold townhomes, you see that the average sale price did go up over this last month. One of the things that I'll point out in that other video that I'm going to do is why average sale prices don't always make as, you can't compare them and believe that like all house prices are going up or down when the average goes up or down. And I'll explain that in my other video, but it is a snapshot in time, and we can say, hey, from month to month, the prices went up, except for the townhomes, which is kind of odd because that's the one that the sector of the market that's actually got the tightest market, the fewest listings, they're selling the quickest and stuff. But okay, so these charts show us the average sale price for a specific property type, in this case detached, and you can compare month over month if you look at the black bar to black bar for each section there, so January to February. But you can also look back year over year, and you can see that other than 2022, where we had the very high prices into the first few months of 2022, you can see that the average sale price for detached is pretty steady from year to year. On this one, this is the semi-detached, the same thing, but this one I have to do caveat the fact that semi-detached market is a lot smaller. There's a lot fewer sales, which means that the averages can get affected by that. But there's also a wide variety of what a semi-detached home could be. You can have quite low-priced semi-detached, and then you've got lots of luxury ones. And so depending on what sells in which month, the numbers are a lot more volatile. Here we have the townhome, same thing. So we see also a lot more homogeneous product across the city, but you can see that the prices are a little bit more steady year to year other than that 2022. And then this final one is for the condos, and this includes all condos, which again, condos can vary very drastically as well, but I didn't separate out the townhome condos versus apartment condos. This is all condos together. So like the semi-detached, you have a lot more volatility depending on whether it's a luxury condo or an older small condo that's more budget friendly. Okay, so now we'll get into some of the monthly charts that I have. This is now including the February data. We can see that the close price to the original list price, that's how close the sale price is to what the original listing price was, is climbing, and that just means that the market is heating up a little bit. People are, especially in those properties that are selling very quickly, they're selling at or above, we're seeing, but the average right now for detached is 98.2, townhomes 98.5, and condos did climb up as well, up to 97.6. These ones here show you the average days to sell. So these are the homes that are actually have sold. How long did the average home that sold in February take to sell? It was detached was 33 days, townhomes 31 days. And that actually surprises me a little bit because I thought that it would be a little bit lower for townhomes just because it's a bit of a quicker market. There aren't as many on the market, and it seems to be the first one to kind of react when the market picks up. And then condos also came down a little bit, down to 44 days. This one here chart shows us the monthly sales for the last 10 years, and we can see the black line is the start of 2024. And clearly our sales are higher than what we had in 2023, which is the dark blue line. But I do like to see that the 2024 numbers are above several other years over the last 10 years. I looked back at what the data was, and the 2024 sales were higher than all the years leading up to about 2017. I think it was slightly higher than 2017, but clearly we're still below all of the most recent years and the out of like bizarre years of 2021, 2022, which were drastically higher than average. And here we have the months of inventory. So that is by definition the number of months it would take to sell all currently listed inventory at the sales rate that we are seeing in that month if no more properties were listed. So as the sales pick up, we start seeing the months of inventory come down unless the inventory is climbing at a much, much higher rate. So right now the inventory is climbing, but not enough to keep up with the sales. And so our months of inventory is dropping. We're currently at 2.7 months for detached, 1.7 for towns, and 2.4 for condos. And then this is a macro view of the months of inventory. You can see over the last 10 years, clearly for the last 5-6 years, we've been in a very tight market. There's not enough inventory to give people choice, to keep the prices low. And that's why over that same period from 2019 onwards, once we got into that stage, that was why the prices climbed so much over that period of time. So as a macro, all properties, the whole city, were coming back down. We didn't quite reach that balance market, but I do want to give the caveat, like if you are a home seller, talk to your realtor, find out what it means for your type of house in your neighborhood, because this is not indicative of any specific house or any specific neighborhood. It's a very wide view. And then the same thing for buyers. If you're looking for a specific type of house and comparing different areas, the months of inventory for the same type of house in different areas could be very different. So ask these questions to your realtor, buyer, or seller. Get the info for what you're looking for in the area you're looking for so that you'll be educated. Okay, so that's my update for today. So I will include that extra video later on this week when I get the monthly data from the board and my brokerage, just to give you an idea of what different data points are and how it differs and all that. So please stay tuned for a video later this week. But if you do have any questions on what I did share this week, please reach out, leave a comment for YouTube comment, or you can reach out directly with my details are there. I hope you have a fantastic week.